But hello everyone, my name is Madison Leonard. That was a really nice intro, so thank you so much. I'm really passionate about PLG. If you don't know what PLG is, that's okay. We're gonna get into it in this session, so no worries. But this session is really gonna be focused more tactically on the tactics that you can use. And I'll break it into bite-sized pieces for you so that it doesn't matter if you are at a product-led company or at a sales-led company. It doesn't matter if you have multiple products in your portfolio. It doesn't matter if you're early stage or seasoned PMM. You can take all of the tactics and frameworks that we're gonna learn here today, and you'll be easily able to apply them. Technical difficulties? Oh, thank you so much. Wait, how do I? That one forward, that one backwards. Great, okay. Let's get into it, shall we? So first thing, I promise this does relate back to what we're gonna talk about today, but I wanna travel backwards in time a little bit to 7-year-old me. Now, I had a hobby where I loved to play PlayStation. Any PlayStation fans in this audience today? Yes, okay. PlayStation is awesome. Very early in sort of the game development era. So I was really excited about one particular game launch in particular that was called Shrek the Treasure Hunt. Shrek did awesome in box office and they created this game. And so of course I thought I need to go and get this game. So I did. I convinced my mom, please could we go get this game? We went to GameStop. This is before you could just get stuff on your phone, and you bought the game, brought it home, tried it out. There was just one problem. It was an absolute fail. It actually went down in PlayStation history as one of the worst launches. It crashed all the time. It did not work properly even when it wasn't crashing. It was kind of boring. It didn't really have a storyline. It just did not do very well at all. Does this sound at all familiar? In fact, does it remind you of the B2B buying process today? I'll compare the two so you can kind of see what I mean. I had to convince a stakeholder, AKA my mom. I had to go through the buying process, go physically in store, go to do all those things. I had to perceive what I thought the app was going to be like, right? Through advertisement, through the brand that already existed today. And then brought it home. Once I paid for it, I had to pay for it first, brought it home, and then I had to try it out and to see if that perceived experience was actually in line with the experience I had of the app on its own. On the B2B side of things, it's very similar. You go to your boss, you convince stakeholders across the company, you go through the buying cycle, you purchase the product, and then you go and hopefully it expands out into your departments and everybody gets a lot of value out of the product. Problem is that doesn't always work. In fact, for sales-led B2B buying processes, a lot of the times the adoption is really low and the perceived value just doesn't match up. But lucky for us, there's a lot of innovations today. So instead of, on the game side, going to a GameStop, having to buy this in person, having to go through all that process, now I can just open up my app, go to an app store, and try something for free. See whether I like it or not before I buy. Lucky for us, this is catching up in the B2B space as well, and we call this B2B PLG. And there's a lot of really great companies who do this well, Canva being one. Most recently, last year, Adobe acquired Figma for $20 billion, okay? For the record, Adobe did try to go into PLG, but it was a little too late, and so they had to make this acquisition. So this is going to continue to be what that buying cycle is like, and the demand for it is growing more and more every year. But don't just take my word for it. There are industry leaders across Gartner and G2 and TrustRadius and a lot of other folks. I don't expect you to read everything on these slides. This is just more capturing everything in the market. But they're all saying the same thing. The state of B2B buying has just fundamentally changed. People want to see the software, they want to experience that value before they go and either put their credit card down themselves or go to their boss and say, hey, can we buy this product or this platform for our entire team? That's what I'm going to be talking about today. So not only am I going to uncover the magic of this new buying experience, but I'm also going to make sure that I break it down one by one, covering what PLG is exactly, some misconceptions out there, so I want to address those. Then what product-led product marketing looks like, because sales-led product marketing and product-led product marketing are very, very different. And then we'll get into the bread and butter of what those product-led go-to-market tactics actually look like, breaking them down one by one with goals, metrics, and the individual tactics that you can use to achieve them. And my favorite part about PLG is just how sustainable the growth really is once you get on that flywheel. Just quickly before we get into it, I want to give you a little bit of background on me. Not only have I spent the last decade launching products across direct-to-consumer and B2B companies, but I've had the awesome opportunity to work with some of the best venture-backed portfolio companies, including things from Y Combinator, Sequoia, and Kraft. And I basically help founders in PMM grow with product-led tactics, as well as launch new products to market. I also worked at ClickUp, which was an awesome experience, and got to launch one of the largest new products in company history called ClickUp Whiteboards, for which I won the Product Launch of the Year award. And I also share frameworks every single week for free on LinkedIn. And I want to make sure that this information gets out there as effortlessly as possible, because I believe that PLG is just such an awesome thing that everybody should take advantage of. So, without further ado, let's talk about what PLG is. Now, anybody want to take a stab at what PLG stands for? Product-led growth, thank you, yes. Product-led growth is exactly what PLG is. However, there's some misconceptions here about what PLG is, okay? Number one thing that I hear all the time is PLG means free trial. Misconception number one. We'll get into a little bit on why that's a misconception later, but PLG is a strategy. It's a company-wide strategy. It is not a tactic. And this strategy is basically using your product as the main vehicle to acquire, activate, and retain customers. The primary growth loop is not outbound. It's not marketing. It's the product. And it's users actually acquiring and inviting other users to the product because they get so much value out of it. I like to use the example of Venmo. I'm sure all of us have probably either heard of or used Venmo on our own. Think about for every one user that Venmo acquires, that user, in order to get experience and value out of the app, they actually have to go and interact with another user. You can't go download Venmo and then be like, this is a cool app. Nothing would happen. You need to exchange that money, send that money back and forth, right? So Venmo is a prime example of product-led growth, in that for every one user that Venmo gets, that user needs to get at least another user in order for that app to be experiential for them. And what I love about PLG most is that it really bridges the gap between that perceived value and the experience itself. Like in the example I gave earlier with the game, I had so much perceived value over what I was going to get. The brand was very well known. There was a lot of really beneficial things, but the experience just did not match up. And this happens in B2B software all of the time. Just out of curiosity, quick raise of hands, how many people have either yourself or know someone within your organization who has bought software and not been totally happy with it? Okay, I think literally everyone in here raised their hand. This happens all the time, and this is why PLG is starting to really take off today, because we're able to put the experience in the hands of users and ensure they're getting value prior to that purchase actually happening. So that was our quick little masterclass on PLG. I could talk about that for a really long time, but I want to get to the good stuff. So next we're going to talk about the difference between product-led PMM and sales-led PMM. Okay, so I really see this being two key differences here, and it's on target audience, messages, and value prop between product-led and sales-led. In traditional sales-led, okay, this is probably going to sound really familiar, you're really doing a lot of outbound. You're talking to the decision maker. Maybe that person is a VP or a director at least, if not C-suite. And you're really selling them on this vision, right? On this future state of how much better they're gonna be at their job, how much their department's gonna thrive, how much their company's gonna get more revenue, right? So all of this really big picture thinking. You're positioned as a thought leader, and you're trying to get them to either save time, money, get them more revenue. It's all very company focused and large department focused. This is exactly the opposite of what PLG product marketing is. PLG is really focused on the individual user and their job to be done. It's really focused on the pain points that that one user is having and how we can help them do their job better, faster, more efficiently, whatever it is. Now, the one thing I want to caveat here, because I get this question a lot, can product-led and sales-led exist together? The answer is yes. You don't have to pick one or the other. This isn't saying you have to do only sales-led, and if you're doing sales-led, you can't have a product-led motion. That is not it at all. You can absolutely do these two things together, and in fact, we see that a lot. Teams like Asana, MongoDB, they all do this. A lot of big companies do this, so definitely something we can have both sides of the coin for this. Now let's get into the good stuff. So we've talked about what PLG is and isn't. We've broken down what it means from a product marketing specific point of view. And now we're going to talk about the specific go-to-market frameworks that we can leverage and the tactics that you can start implementing literally tomorrow. So I've broken this down into two different frameworks, but I'm going to talk about this one fairly short and then spend the rest of the time on the second just because there's so much to go over in it. The first one is what I like to call the self-service spectrum. Now, one of the main questions that I get from either PMMs or founders is, do I have to have a free trial in order to take advantage of product-led go-to-market? And the answer is no, you don't. Now, of course, I am biased. I think that the future is product-led. That's what data is saying too. You should move towards that goal, but it doesn't mean you have to wait until you have that product in order to start leveraging these tactics. And not only that, but self-service is a spectrum, and you can start moving and inching your way along the spectrum to get to that full product-led kind of growth. So we're all familiar with freemium and reverse trials. As a reminder, freemium is when you have some sort of base tier that's always free. It's never going to be paid. It's literally usage maybe that's limited, but for the most part, it's very free. Reverse trial, my favorite. It's when you come in at an advanced tier, and when that trial ends, let's say it's 14 days, you get downgraded to a freemium version. So with these examples, there's always some kind of base tier that is free for the user. Time-bound trial, on the other hand, is great for teams who don't quite have the engineering power to build the infrastructure needed for not only a free all the time, but also you need so much more. You need self-service billing, you need self-service support. There's a lot of things that go into having a fully free product 24/7. So time-bound trial is a great way for companies to leverage a lot of that without the added weight of resources and energy across the engineering team. And time-bound trials are where you come into the product for a set duration, say it's 14 days, 30 days. At the end of that, you do not have access to the product anymore, and you have to go to sales to talk through that process. Now, hopefully, you've experienced that value, and so that will accelerate the pipeline velocity later on. Next, we have demo walkthrough. Demo walkthrough is where you have a fully self-serve demo hosted on your website for the user to experience. And this is like a sandbox environment that is really pristine on all of the details, all the data is filled in, so that user looks at your product at its prime state, end state of what it's supposed to look like, and they get to experience that value, even though it's not their personal company data implemented within there. This is a really great option for people who do not have the time and resources to build out any sort of freemium or free trial piece, but still benefit in not only acceleration of pipeline velocity, but also experience that value firsthand and result in closed-won deals. We're all familiar with the sales-led process, so I'm gonna keep that there, and we're gonna move on to my favorite go-to-market framework, which is this product-led journey. Now, if you've seen other customer journeys in the past, this may look pretty familiar, but there are some key differences. And I'm gonna walk through each of these steps, there's 6 of them, and I'm going to go through and identify the goals, metrics, and tactics for each one. So first off, we have awareness. I also like to call this demand creation, okay? So it's really creating a lot of demand for your product, your company, your brand, and this is ongoing. This is providing free value, no strings attached. And I really mean no strings attached. This means that when you are posting about things, you are not linking a call to action button. You're not saying go download this free report. You're not saying come to our website. You are just providing them with value. That's it, period, end of story. And you do this continually and continually, building an audience very similar to how a media company does. And you're building that brand trust and really creating that demand creation so that when that person is ready to buy or is exploring solutions to their problem, you are the first one to pop into their head. Gong does a really great job at this. They have built not only Gong Labs as a newsletter, but they've also posted on LinkedIn to their, again, primary target, which is sales reps. Not sales leaders, sales reps, the individual person, providing them with free value so that when the time comes for them to purchase, they already have that brand trust. You could use metrics like organic referrals or engagement to track this. And there are other tactics outside of LinkedIn or creating a newsletter. A lot of bottom of funnel content around your product specifically. You could also do gated community like a Slack or a newsletter. The second out of 6 steps is acquisition. We're still, I think, all very familiar with this step. Demand capture, it's also called. Now, traditionally with sales-led companies, they will use standalone content like white papers or PDFs to generate leads, essentially, right? Create MQLs, send people into the pipeline. The only problem with this is it's resulting in less close-won deals in today's environment. And so we really need to make sure that when we're capturing demand, we're doing it very risk-free. Right? We're not asking you to speak to anybody. We're asking you to get inside the product as soon as possible or to see that demo walkthrough that we talked about earlier if a free product is not on your agenda in the near future. You can do account created or meeting booked for this, although we do want to lean more towards account creation. And the goal here is to acquire users as cheaply as possible. There is a reason that acquisition stands out within product-led companies and CAC payback, or the cost of acquisition per customer, is much, much lower for product-led companies than it is for sales-led. Adoption. I don't know where my N went, but that was supposed to be adoption. Adoption is something fairly new with product-led, okay? You won't typically see this with a sales-led type of motion. And adoption is basically the user going in and deciding, I'm going to try this product in some way, whether it's through that online demo, whether it's in a free trial, whatever it is that user's trying to use your product and see what the value is. We can track this a variety of different ways. DAU, WOW, MAU, otherwise known as daily active, weekly active, or monthly active users. And you can also do usage, which is an active event for anything on the page, okay? And this is gonna be different from the next step. Anything on the page. If the user opens your app, clicks a button, that is considered them adopting the product, okay? We really wanna get them to that path as quickly as possible. One of the tactics that I've used for a lot of launches, but in particular the ClickUp Whiteboards launch, was templates. This is a really easy way for people to get in the door because I don't know if y'all have experienced this, I certainly have. Sometimes when I get into a product and there's no onboarding or no templates or no direction, I'm left with the entire world of what I can do, and I end up doing nothing. And that is what the majority of people do as well. You have to point them in a direction. And so really making sure that you're partnering very closely with whoever's the product lead on the product you're launching to activate some way to guide them to the right path. And the right path is towards activation. Activation is creating habitual activity, right? We're not just adopting the platform randomly. We're very, very specific about what we want the user to do. If someone becomes activated, they then become retained. If someone just adopts your product and they don't really get activated and they leave, you've missed your opportunity. Now, there are ways we can try to bring them back into the product, but ultimately we're trying to get that user towards activation, where they have that light bulb moment where they go, aha, I see the value in what's here. The metric is going to be vastly different for every company that you work for. So there is no one single solution, but I will tell you, one of the things that you can do that I've done in the past that's been very helpful is go to your product leader or your data analytics leader, both if you have them, and ask them, what actions are people doing in our product that make them retained 30, 60, 90 days later? What's the commonality here, okay? I'll give you a personal example. When I worked at ClickUp, which is a project management tool for those who don't know, if you went on to ClickUp and you created one task for yourself and then you left, that wasn't considered adoption. I mean, that wasn't considered activation, it was considered adoption, right? You tried the product out, and then you left and never came back. However, people who tried the product and created 3 tasks and invited another user were retained 30 days later. Aha, we found our activation. Now we're guiding everybody towards that activation target, right? We want everybody to create 3 tasks and invite a user, okay? Tactics can be personalized guides. You can have email sequences to bring people back into the product in case they've left. There's a lot of different examples you can do here. 2 left. Now we move on to retention, one of my favorite things of all time. Retention is repeatable value, okay? It's not the aha moment one time. It's having the aha moment over and over and over again. So you want to really have repeatability and sustainability with that unique value proposition. Metrics that you can measure for this are 7-day or 30-day retention, right? AKA, they came into the product and 30 days later, they're still using the product. Traditionally, annual renewals are kind of the basis. A lot of CSMs will be in charge of that retention. The only caveat I will say with that is that retention just around an ARR goal does not mean they're actually finding value within the product, okay? They haven't been on your product in 3 months, they're not finding value. They need to be coming back into the product time and time again and having that aha moment experience. And for people who are out of the product, maybe they have had that activation moment, we can bring them back in through an inactive email sequence. You can also have them invite other users, right? Having that accountability can really make an impact in how long someone stays within a product. And notifications are also a great tool, whether it's email notifications or notifications on the platform. If there's that collectiveness, people feel more connected to the product itself. And of course, retention is awesome, but even more awesome than retention is the last piece, which is monetization. Now, this is probably the most differentiated tactic between product-led and sales-led. Like in the example I gave earlier, typically with a sales-led experience, you're buying that software and then you're experiencing the value. That is completely the opposite in product-led. You are experiencing the value and then you are either self-serve, handing your credit card over, or you're going and talking to sales if it's a larger deal. The goal here is to create such undeniable expansion value that it's not really up for discussion. People just go, oh, well, I can't imagine living without this tool. Now I have to upgrade. There is no other path. There is no other competitors. This is it. We could do this a few different ways. So like I mentioned, you have that self-serve path where someone could swipe their credit card on their own. This is great for individual users or small teams. However, like I said earlier, you can actually combine this product-led growth motion with product-led sales as well. And so one of the tactics that you can use for this is something called product qualified leads, or product qualified accounts is used as well. And this is basically a signaling that tells the sales rep, hey, this company is really large. The amount of people that they've added to this is really large or substantial in some way. And the activity that they're doing is substantial in some way too, right? Let me give you an example. If I come in to a product analyzation tool like Amplitude, and I'm just one person, one product manager, and I go on and I talk with my engineering team and we get all the events triggered and I have all the events there. Do I want only one product manager in there? No, I want my whole product team involved inside of that analytics tool so that they're all getting value. Well, the more people that I invite and the more that we use the product, now sales is going, hey, they were too small before, self-serve was a great path for them, but now we're getting signals that indicate that they would be a great expansion profile for our sales team. And so this is when sales can get involved and kind of facilitate that expansion to a larger deal size when the time is right, and leverage those product qualified leads to tell them when that time is right. So not only can we leverage things like PQLs, but we can also utilize tactics like usage increases, unlocking functionality, and things like that. So we talked about a lot of fun stuff. Let's recap everything really quickly. We talked about PLG and the benefit of that perceived value and experience value really coming together. Then we talked about the key differences between product-led product marketing and sales-led product marketing. Really being focused on product-led with that individual user and their job to be done and problem to be solved. Then we talked about this self-serve spectrum, right? You don't have to have a free trial today in order to take advantage of some of those product-led go-to-market tactics. And then we dove into the go-to-market journey all the way from awareness to monetization and looked at how we can implement those tactics today. So with all that being said, I just have one final question for you. I love asking this. Talked a lot of acronyms today. There's a lot of acronyms in PLG. So my question for you is, are you now fluent in PLG? And you will know this if you can read what's on the slide. Does anybody want to take a wild guess? Go ahead and just shout it out. Come on, someone's got to be brave enough. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Marketing. Mm-hmm. Yep. Networks effects. Yeah. Yep. I'll give you a little bit of help. How's that? 1/3 customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, with 5% free to paid conversion rate, self-serve conversion rate, product-led sales, go-to-market, 85% closed-win deals via sales-assisted product-qualified leads, hand raisers, and account-based marketing. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed.
That was awesome. I'd imagine we have a lot of questions, so let's let the Slido come up. But there you go. What's your favorite? There you go. What's your favorite movie?
I feel like I have to answer Shrek now just because of how I let it up. I would say, oh my gosh, I was ready for product questions and now my brain is fried. I would say I just watched Don't Worry Darling like a week ago and I was pretty mind blown by that movie, so I would definitely check it out on Netflix.
Nice. Question over there.
Yes. Have been faking at it? Is that what you said? Yes, I talk with a lot of people about this very problem. So like I said earlier, free trial does not equal PLG, and I think that's a really big misconception that has to be unearthed right now. And so a lot of times I'll work with someone who says, hey, we're doing PLG, but really need to focus on this sales process. I'll say, well, what are you doing to do PLG? And they say, we have a free trial. And then I ask, well, what's your self-serve conversion rate? What's your conversion rate on the website to account creation? What's all of these things that are going to apply the network effects where users are inviting other users and you really have that retention and activation in the product? And usually they can't answer that question. So I would say, if you can answer what does activation look like in your product and why are people retained without sales being involved, those are pretty good indicators of if you're doing PLG the right way, if you have a free trial or some sort of self-serve model. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say using that self-service spectrum and trying to inch your way down step by step. So I would say, first off, if you don't have the resources to go into creating a free trial, because it is a massive undertaking, then I would start with having some sort of self-service demo on the website and get everybody to look at that, to go through it themselves prior to booking a meeting. Instead of booking a meeting being your call to action, it is view the product. And then at the end of viewing the product, then you can go and talk to sales. So that's like the first step, where you're still doing that experiencing of the platform and getting value from it. And then inch your way forward. But I would also say too, when it comes to pricing and packaging, which is like a whole nother topic we can go into, but you can actually structure things in a way that is blocked on usage. So you could still have an enterprise client who's using a very similar product to your base tier, except for it's unlimited usage or unlimited users or unlimited XYZ, right? Versus someone who is a solopreneur coming into the platform. They have a bunch of limitations, but they're still providing value. And so that's a really common pricing and packaging structure that I see, is limiting on usage rather than saying our product is really, expensive. It's like, well, yeah, it's expensive when it's all unlocked. Let's make it not expensive when it has a bunch of limitations on it, but still provides that value to begin with. Yep. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, it absolutely is effective. And one of the examples I'll use, just because it's top of mind, is at ClickUp, we would have people who came in individually, who were on a team. Then they go, oh, this is really cool for managing my own stuff. Hey, team, come in and try it. Now it's a team of 5. Then they're like, oh, this is really cool. Hey, cross-functional team over there, you try it. And then you get on more and more and more. And then eventually it scales up over the next year to be this enterprise client. And now sales comes over and we could expand into that deal. So product-led growth and sales can interact together. It is not one or the other. But we often find that having some sort of product-led motion gets people to like slowly grow, invite people, slowly grow. And then you get to a place where then you can get passed over to sales. And you've already experienced that value versus sales cold outreaching to someone, oh, sorry about that, cold outreaching to someone who's never tried your product and trying to sell into a team of 20. It just is a way easier path. It is a longer term solution, but I find it's one that keeps not only retention, but you can expand into enterprise deals way down the road, and it's very beneficial.
Awesome. All right, that's it. Everyone, give it up for Madison. Thanks, Madison.
Thank you.